So this is 1870. It's only a few years after emancipation.
Right.
And somehow Bolin owns his own property.
Right.
In Alabama, girl. How does this happen?
One way to find out a little bit more about where it came from would be to do a search to see if we could figure out who his slave owner was. So,
How do you do that?
We're going to go back into Ancestry, see if we can find out.
Okay.
But this time we're gonna look for the 1860 U.S. Federal Census slave schedule of all the slave owners.
A slave schedule of the slave owners. Can you explain what that means?
Okay, so slaves were considered property, so they needed an accurate count based on the age and the gender of the slaves. There would be a certain value assigned to them, and so this was part of the accounting.
The slave schedule is sort of a list of assets.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, we see the earliest record we have for him has the surname Matthews. So we can presume that that was likely the surname of his slave owner.
Yes.
So that's what we're gonna wanna search for here. So we'll do a search to see if there were any Matthews families who owned slaves in Dallas County.
Virginia Matthews.
So Virginia Matthews would be the name of the slave owner.
So Matthews was a woman, female slave owner.
Which again was unique, but certainly not unheard of. Quite often, if there was a female slave owner, she had inherited slaves from her husband or her father. All of these other rows would indicate her slaves. Column as well.
She had
a lot of slaves. This would be a very wealthy family. This would put her in the top 1%. Wealth and numbers of slaves.
The 1%.
Yeah.
Oh, she's rich.
Yes, very large plantation to accommodate this many slaves.
Wow. It's a 12-year-old here. It's a 19-year-old, another 12-year-old, a 13-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old. Okay. We would be looking for someone. Bolin was 45 years old in 1870, so he'd have been 35 in 1860. And as we scroll down Virginia Matthews, I see two 35-year-old Black males who were owned by Virginia Matthews. So it looks like one of these is potentially Bolin.
Right.
Wow. 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 It's just really hard to think about a human being as property. That is a very intense thing to get my head around. It's very infuriating. We weren't even people. And my family, this is my family, born into this. So, can we determine if Bolin was, in fact, one of Virginia's slaves?
You can go further back than this. The key at this point is to try to find county-level records that would pertain to the slave owner and see if it names her slaves.
There might be county records that have their names?
Right, you'd need to go on to Dallas County. The county seat is Selma, and see if they have some of the records.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So by going to Selma, I'm hoping to get confirmation that my 3 times great-grandfather was indeed a slave of Virginia Matthews. And then maybe I'll have a shot at digging deeper into who he was. I was so emotionally impacted by seeing the slave schedules. It just crystallized the deep dehumanization that happened, and it made me think about the dehumanization that still happens to Black folks in America, to trans people in America, to women. I've thought about all the moments when I've been treated as if I were less than human, when I've been called an it. And so it just felt, it didn't feel like history. It felt like now. I'm going to meet with Manisha Sinha to find out more about my 3 times great-grandfather, Bolin Banks Matthews. So my journey's brought me here to confirm that my 3 times great-grandfather was indeed the property, I feel such a like a horrible thing to say, of Virginia Matthews.
Yes, and we have some interesting documents for you here that might help you solve that mystery.
Inventory and appraisement of the estate of Peter E. Matthews on the White Bluff Plantation in Dallas County, taken the 15th of April, 1856. So I'm assuming Virginia presumably inherited all of his assets.
Yes, so Virginia is his wife.
So this is from 4 years before the 1860 slave schedule that I saw yesterday.
Absolutely.
So Peter Matthews owned a plantation called White Bluff in Dallas County. Okay. Articles of property values. 2 pianos, 2 settees. These are literally
A list of his property.
list of his property. And do they say, they don't say anything about slaves here?
So part of this is this.
And this is the second page.
It's continued.
Names of Negro slaves. So it's the steward, Jim, Andrew Brown, some of them had last names, Bowling, Beverly, Barry, Joe. They had a lot of slaves, honey. And they have a dollar value next to their names.
Yeah.
This Bowling, is Bowling Bolin?
Most likely, yes.
$750. My understanding is that their value is assessed based on age and gender.
Yes.
So in 1856, he would have been 31.
So he is valued at this amount because he is over 30. And if you look at some of the other valuations here, you'll see
$1,000.
a prime field hand would be valued at over $1,000, which in the 19th century, that is a lot of money. And so these were usually young, adult, enslaved men around the ages from around 16 to around mid-20s. And it really depended on their ability to pick cotton. It really shows you what slavery was all about, the commodification of human beings.